There are logs that are kept for both. I can say that there's a separate log which is kept for what we call rap sheet checks. And I would say that as a subset, which is a smaller one than the total, there's over 3,000.
3,000 rap sheets.
Yes.
3,000 people whose rights were violated. 3,000 people whose constitutional rights were violated. 3,000 people that they did something illegal to. And illegal by the people that are supposed to be enforcing the law, protecting the law, whose job it is to protect and serve and ensure that our civil rights are something that are important, that are protected.
And what about those license plate checks? About how many of those?
There's a range, and it centers around, well, your scholarship sports. And so I would say that there's no consistent average year to year, but sometimes it could have been measured in hundreds.
So overall, we're looking north of 4,000?
That's fair.
That's fair, okay. How far back do these things go?
Literally,
As far as we can look,
as far back as the records that we have, and it's our beliefs that the illegal searches started the day following the initial agreement with the Sheriff's Department that gave them access to the database, literally the very next day. If you applied for a job, if you held a job and they wanted to investigate you for potential misconduct, if you applied to work as a coach, a wrestling coach, a basketball coach, things
Teacher.
that if you apply to be a teacher, if you want to be a volunteer driver, if you are a student who applies for an interdistrict transfer and you want to play on a sports team, I would say all of those categories, wherever, and their term was for the purposes of the district, they felt they wanted the information with impunity and without regard to the rights of the people who were being searched. They had those searches run by civilian employees of the police department, and then they used call signs of actual police officers to cheat the audit that they had to give to the Department of Justice, so the Department of Justice wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So the audits are all clean?
they absolutely lied to the Department of Justice. Absolutely lied. By doing that, you're lying to the community. You're lying to everybody. It's absolutely despicable, inexcusable what they've done. And the fact that we have somebody who is the type of law enforcement officer that we really want to have as the whistleblower, the person who came forward, became the first person to actually look into this and say, hey, what's been going on here is illegal, is someone who is not only just, a man in blue, but he's true blue.
Yeah.
Absolutely a true blue human being. And the whistleblowing was just locally to the people who he's mandated to report to. He's a mandated reporter. They retaliate against him for it. So wrong. A hero of this community. Here in Bakersfield, which is such a wonderful place. I love the people in Bakersfield. I've been trying cases here for over 10 years. They're good people. Is we have a corrupt school district. Absolutely corrupt. Who thinks because sports are so important here, which they are, and that's something to be really proud of, that they can do whatever it is that they want. They don't have to follow the rules, that they're actually above the law. It's so hypocritical. There's such hypocrisy, such corruption. And there's been, in this specific case, there is a conspiracy to violate the law, a conspiracy to lie to the Attorney General, a conspiracy to lie when they're getting audited. It's unheard of, you would think. But the depth that this goes when you start digging and you look at what they've done, it involves the whole system. Mm-hmm. It's not just one individual, because if it was just one individual, then when our client became the chief of the department. I mean, and he looks, says, hey, you know what, this doesn't seem right, this is wrong, and he reports it, and something would have been done about it. Instead, what they did was they said, we're going to do whatever we want, and you are going to toe the line. You're going to get in line, and you're going to be part of this conspiracy. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. So he lost his career, and so did others.
When you're the reporting party, when you are the whistleblower, and allegations are made against you that you are in fact the wrongdoer, that is by definition retaliation. When you are put on administrative leave on the basis of being a potential subject of investigation, when in reality the investigating agency has you listed as the reporting party, when more than one internal investigation is opened against you, essentially realleging and repeating the same set of facts in an effort to find a reason to terminate you, that is not only retaliating, but it's also intimidating when you have to come in on a regular basis to an environment where doors are closed and you're subjected to daily debriefings to try to get you to toe the line. I would say that qualifies as retaliation and it qualifies as intimidation. That's the basis for those 2 points.
And
In some.
They
there's
want
more.
him to be part of a conspiracy to violate the law, and what they wanted to do was use his name to do it, to continue to conduct this illegal activity. They wanted to use his good name. He had worked his entire career with an impeccable record and never done anything of the sort. So when he saw what was going on, he said, you know what, this isn't okay, because the law says it's not okay. And they said, well, we're going to do it anyways. He said, no, I can't be a part of that. And then they came after him. For the first time in his career, the man who they had promoted to this position, the man who they had trusted, who they said was qualified and is the person who should be the chief, all of a sudden, they start going after him. Once he blows the whistle that he is legally obligated to blow, because he's sworn an oath not to them, he's sworn an oath to this community, to the people here. They retaliated against him. We have a really good district attorney's office here, and it's sad that this wasn't prosecuted. I think it was a tough decision for them, and one of the things you can always say is, well, the statute of limitations is passed. I think that proving a criminal case against all these different people, can you imagine the public resources that it would take to basically file a criminal complaint and prosecute a criminal case against so many members of the school district and so many members of the people in power? It'd be a lot of resources, and the Kern County District Attorney's Office has a lot of tough work to do. That's why we're doing this civil case against the Kern County School District, which, I mean, what is Bakersfield High School? What's the annual budget? The
Kern High School District.
over $600 million a year.
It's at least $500 million.
It's at least $500 million.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to sue them for at least a percentage of that. Certainly over $100 million for what they've done, not only to our client and the other people they've done it to, but on behalf of the people of this community.
Now, what you were talking about earlier with the DA's office, I'm curious if you were suggesting that the burden of work was just too great to take on for a case like this.
I would say it would be a lot of work, but I'd also say that it'd be a really tough thing to do, to have to go after your own.
Sure.
This is something that I think will be dealt with better in the civil arena. We get to do discovery, we get to take depositions. The DA's office doesn't get to do that stuff. and it would take a lot of resources. That's where sometimes civil justice can come in and do what it is that criminal justice system can't.
He's better. This caused him some severe health complications as a result of the stress. He's recovering from the surgery he had, which was related in great part to that stress. His big goal is to see the conduct change, because he grew up here, he wrestled here, he coached wrestling at BHS in times past. He cares about the community, and he cares that the school district operates in such a way that the pattern of subverting police powers for purposes that they were never intended in violation of people's civil rights stops permanently, and that the structure of how the police department is managed is changed to be one which is in full accordance with the law, so that you have the board of trustees over the police chief as opposed to district supervisors. And so he wants to see the system fixed. He wants to see the Curtin High School District be a place that the public can trust as an organization. And I would say that's his greatest goal, and probably what moved him from being the type of person who wouldn't engage in a lawsuit to the person who has chosen to do that and asked us to help him with it, because he wants to see the system be one that can hold the public trust.
He's still being a law enforcement officer. He's still being a leader in this community. He's still being the chief. He's doing it. I mean, the DA wouldn't prosecute the case, and we've talked about the reasons why and how difficult that would be for them. So he's now pursuing justice and protecting this community in a different way. He's still serving. He's going to stop corruption, and he's going to expose what was done that was very, very wrong, not just to him, part of it, but to members of this community. Education code, I mean, the complaint goes through all the legal things that they've done that we know of so far. I'm sure we'll find more.
It's detailed in the complaint, but there was a specific education code put in place, if memory serves me correctly, probably circa 2012, to prevent the very situation which was occurring, which is that police departments are run by their chief, and the chief is responsible to the board of trustees, as opposed to having civilian supervisors over what amounts to be a titular figurehead, and having their employees required to take orders from school administrators. It's that type of situation which the education code endeavored to prevent. There's 118 paragraphs in the complaint covering a number of pages, and if you can imagine the thousands of records in the time period, I don't have an exact match between numbers and types of searches in my head with his department. There's pupil personnel, there's 2 lead departments that those checks were coming from. I can tell you that not by individual name, but by position, during all of the relevant time periods, requests for checks for various reasons came from the civilian supervisory personnel directing police department secretaries to perform those searches, or dispatcher, I should say.
I tell you that one of the things that might slow this down, might even stop this lawsuit, is if the people who are doing this and the people in power step forward, apologize to the public, admit the corruption, admit what they've done wrong, apologize to this man for what they did to him, apologize to everybody else publicly. They can do it in one document, I'm sure. Acknowledge what they did, offer this man his job back, and pay him for what was done to him and everybody else that they hurt. Figure out a way to do it. apologize to this community and admit that what you did was unlawful, and promise us that it will never, ever happen again. Tell us how you're going to make sure it never happens again, and that you're going to follow the law, and that when the law is being broke, and one of our leaders, one of our peace officers who's a leader, comes forward and acknowledges that we're not going to punish him for it. Because Bakersfield, Kern County is not a corrupt place. That's what we want to see.
I'll defer on that. You can,
Let's see how they respond. If they don't respond the right way, more lawsuits will come. Because people are going to come out of the woodwork and talk about what happened to them. There will be more. The lawsuits will keep coming. Because the DA may have limited resources to prosecute this. We don't. Absolutely. Every single one of them. And if they don't destroy the evidence, there should be records of it. We'll look at the audits. We're going to look at everything, because they're going to have to produce it to us. That's what the civil law requires. That's what civil justice does, is we get to dig very, very deep. Oftentimes, what I've seen with civil cases is we get to dig deeper and find out more than you could in a criminal case. In a criminal case, you have a right to remain silent. Since the statute of limitations is done and they can't prosecute, then Fifth Amendment doesn't apply. They're going to be forced to answer our questions, and a Kern County judge will order them to answer our questions. Because there's one thing about Kern County, we got great people, phenomenal judges.
Okay.
So you asked us about these Rambo squads.
Yes.
All right, so let's imagine that I'm a coach,
you're a coach.
and I want my team to win. And my team is Bakersfield High School.
I'm Highland. I coach soccer.
I'm a
at
driller.
Highland.
I want the drillers to win. But you've got some darn good players.
I have the Highland girls team. I have a girl on my team who the parents moved her so that she could actually move into the district and play on my team.
I don't want her on your team, because if she's on your team, that means I might lose.
The parents are split up. One parent lives in the district, one parent lives out of the district, but they cooperate in going to pick her up and drop her off to her practices.
Call the Rambo squad. Let's harass this family. Let's harass this girl. Let's go get the license plate. Let's use our law enforcement to do an illegal search, an illegal investigation, and go check the license plate. We're going to use our police to do this. We're going to use our local governmental resources. And we're going to call in some people from the Rambo squad to get those plate numbers, so that what I can do as the coach is I can tell somebody else that your player doesn't belong on your team.
So when mom is dropping her off and the Rambo squad writes down her plates, runs the registration, it comes back to an address outside the district. His complaint holds water, because they say, this is the address they're using, but we checked and we really know she lives over here because we got the address off of her mom's car dropping her off.
I get to say she can't play.
She sits for a year. I can complain and ask for a hearing at CIF, and we go back and forth, and as a result of however it turns out, the student in the meantime isn't getting to play.
What happens to her scholarship opportunities?
It goes away.
But what happens to my team?
It gets better. He had an aneurysm that came close to bursting, and he had to actually have open heart surgery.
Wow. What causes those things? Stress, right?
He well, wound up having such high blood pressure as a result of the things that he was going through in that complaint that he developed an aneurysm, and it grew to the point where he had to have emergency open heart surgery.
This is a man that lived for not only his job and his family, but this community and his work. He lived to do what it is that he was doing when they took it away from him, when they smeared his reputation, when they took away everything he had worked for. How many stories do we know of, can we think of, where you take a person's career away and soon you see their life fade, disappear, heart attack, whatever it is. One of the reasons we live is to take care of the people that we love. Well, the people that he loved is this community. They took that from him. And they beat him down, they humiliated him. They say that the stress of being treated wrongly at work, and the stress of being fired, the stress of what, and we'll hear from psychologists in this case, that the stress that they put him through is equivalent to, and sometimes even worse, than the stress of dying, the stress of having a terminal illness. And the studies and the research establish that. What they put him through is equivalent to the stress, even worse, of having a terminal illness.